So hello, thank you for joining us for the TxDOT Beaumont District Stakeholders Meeting for the Noise Barrier Workshop for Barrier 3. My name is Benjamin King, and I'll be serving as your presenter on TxDOT Beaumont District. I'll be presenting a brief summary of the proposed I-10 US 69 Interchanges project, and we'll discuss the project's need and purpose and a description of the most recent design changes impacting the proposed noise barrier. The purpose of this stakeholders meeting is to inform you of an updated noise barrier design. The design has been modified since the previous virtual workshop held in June of 2021 and recommended near your neighborhood, and to solicit your viewpoint as a resident adjacent or benefiting from the proposed barrier. We appreciate your interest in this project, and we welcome each of you here this evening. So to begin, I'd like to talk a little bit about the project. TxDOT and the Federal Highway Administration proposed to reconstruct and expand I-10 and US 69 where they converge in the city of Beaumont and Jefferson County. The proposed project would widen the existing I-10 from Hollywood Overpass east to 7th Street. So what's our goal tonight? First, to provide you with a general overview of our traffic noise analysis and criteria used to develop our preliminary noise barrier recommendation. Next, to explain your role making your voice be heard. After learning about the updated noise barrier design, you'll be invited to cast a vote for or against the noise barrier. Details regarding the aesthetic and landscape design elements as they pertain to the noise barrier are a part of tonight's presentation as well. By the end of this evening, we want to have provided you with all the details necessary to make an informed decision in order to vote for or against the updated noise barrier design. I'll start out with some general information regarding sound and noise, just kind of give you guys some background information. Then I'll describe how the traffic noise analysis and abatement process was conducted for this project. Then I'll describe the previous noise barrier design and compare it to the updated noise barrier design and the differences between the two. The project team will be available after the presentation to answer any questions that you may have thereafter. So, need and purpose. The purpose of the project, and this is the overall project, is to alleviate congestion, to provide a more reliable transportation and evacuation route, to enhance the connectivity and mobility, and to address safety. The two I-10 interchanges with the US 69 in Beaumont are a critical part of the strategic freight network and hurricane evacuation route for capacity in Southeast Texas. Tonight's presentation will only focus on the Eastex interchange. Cardinal Interchange is under construction right now, and so now we're focusing on the second part of the overall project. This slide shows where the originally designed noise barrier 3 would have been located. This version of barrier 3 would have been constructed in two segments between 8th Street to 10th Street and allow for through traffic at 9th Street. A noise workshop for the original design of the noise barrier 3 was conducted in the summer of 2021, with the outcome of the voting associated with that particular workshop being for the noise barrier. This slide shows where the revised design of noise barrier 3 would be located. Barrier 3 would be constructed as a continuous barrier from 10th Street through 8th Street, closing neighborhood access to frontage road at both 9th and 8th Street. Beach Street would also be reconstructed within the existing right-of-way in this area to facilitate the construction of the proposed noise barrier. This redesign of barrier 3, along with the street modifications associated with it, is the reasoning behind revisiting the impacted citizens and conducting a second noise barrier workshop. So just give a quick recap or summary of the items that I covered for the improvements and project changes. The barrier will now be continuous from 10th Street to 8th Street. This new updated version of the sound wall includes closing of 9th and 8th Street at Beach Street. Beach Street would also be reconstructed from 9th Street to 8th Street. And then too, the noise barrier height on the previous design was 18 feet, but due to having a continuous barrier, the height will be reduced from 18 feet to 14 feet. So let's discuss some general information regarding sound and noise. Then I'll describe how the traffic noise analysis and abatement process was conducted for this project. Then I'll describe the updated noise barrier design in more detail. What is sound? Sounds are vibrations traveling through the air as sound waves. Noise, on the other hand, is unwanted sound. Cars and trucks generate noise. This traffic noise is produced by the movement of engines, the vibration of exhaust systems, and the friction of tires against the roadway. The loudness of noise from the traffic depends on the roadway surface type, the amount of traffic, how fast the traffic is moving, and the number and type of vehicles traveling on a road. For example, 18-wheeler trucks with their bigger engines and many tires produce more sound than a typical four-door passenger car. In general, the more traffic on the road and the faster traffic is moving, the louder it will be for a person near the road. Additionally, if you are within the line of sight of a highway, it's going to be louder than if you're not directly see the road, because sound is loudest when it travels in a straight path. Sound waves move outward from a source in all directions. When there are no objects in between the source and your ear, the noise will travel in a direct path. However, sound can be reduced by placing a solid object or barrier, such as a wall, in between the source and the receiver. The location and the height of a barrier can affect the amount of noise that is reduced. Highway traffic noise is often blocked by buildings. Tall fences can reduce sound levels, but no barrier can completely block all traffic noise. Topography can also affect highway traffic noise levels. When the highway is either higher or lower than the receiver, overall noise levels are reduced. In both these cases, the sound waves have a longer path to travel. So traffic noise analysis. So how does TxDOT evaluate traffic noise and noise abatement for highway projects? The Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, requires that we conduct noise studies when federal funds are utilized and when adding capacity on existing highways which may have an increased effect on noise. The purpose of our noise study is to investigate the impact that the I-10 US 69 Interchanges project has on the nearby outdoor areas frequently used by people. The noise analysis for this project was performed in accordance with TxDOT's guidelines for analysis and abatement of roadway traffic noise and reasonable cost proposal for 2018 noise policy. The TxDOT guidelines have been approved by the FHWA. The Federal Highway Traffic Noise Modeling Software, known as the Traffic Noise Model, or TNM, was used to calculate the existing and predicted future traffic noise levels along the roadway project. A traffic noise analysis is a multi-step process. A noise workshop is usually one of the last steps in this process before the final engineering plans are approved and the project is constructed. The noise analysis process includes identifying noise receivers, modeling noise levels, identifying potential noise impacts, considering abatement for noise impacts, and finally, talking to benefited residents and owners adjacent the road about the results of the noise analysis and soliciting the vote of property owners at a noise workshop. So the purpose of a noise analysis is to determine whether traffic sound from a highway will have an impact on nearby outdoor areas frequently used by people. These areas are called receiver locations, or just receivers. Some examples of receivers include residential backyards, playgrounds, and schools. After identifying receivers, a noise analysis determines existing and future noise levels at those locations. Then, based on the predicted noise levels and criteria, the noise analysis identifies possible noise impacts and looks at ways to reduce those impacts. So the traffic noise analysis is performed once again using an approved computer modeling software called Traffic Noise Model. The computer model requires the analyst to enter noise receiver locations, the amount of traffic, and traffic type. Traffic type is the percentage of cars, medium trucks, and heavy trucks. The model also considers how fast the traffic is moving, the roadway design, and surrounding terrain features. Traffic noise is modeled for both the existing traffic and roadway conditions and for future traffic projections and the proposed highway design. So how do we determine if there will be a traffic noise impact? We use noise abatement criteria established by the Federal Highway Administration. The noise abatement criteria, or NAC, for residential land use is 67 decibels. A decibel is a measure of the loudness of sound. There are two types of noise impacts. An absolute impact is when the predicted noise level at a receiver approaches, equals, or exceeds the noise abatement criteria value. For residential properties, the impact would occur if the predicted noise level is 66 decibels or more. A relative noise impact is when the predicted noise level is substantially higher. That is when the future noise level is more than 10 decibels higher than existing noise levels. If there's a noise impact identified, then the next step is to consider abatement measures. Abatement measures are actions that could lower the noise level. These include traffic management, alteration of the roadway alignment, acquisition of buffer zones, installation of public buildings, and finally, the construction of noise barriers. Construction of noise barriers has been determined to be the best solution for this particular project. So what is a noise barrier? Noise barriers are solid walls or barriers that are constructed between the highway and people in order to help reduce noise levels. Noise barriers can reduce noise levels but do not completely block all noise. However, a noise barrier cannot be proposed unless the barrier is determined to be both feasible and reasonable. What makes an abatement measure feasible? Feasibility first means that a noise barrier can actually be built in a location given site constraints such as topography, driveway access, drainage, utilities, and maintenance. Feasibility also means that the noise barrier must provide a substantial reduction in noise levels. A substantial reduction is defined as a reduction of at least 5 decibels at greater than 50% of the first row impacted receivers. The second criteria is that a noise abatement measure should be reasonable. There are 2 measures of reasonableness. First, the baseline cost of a barrier is $25,000 per benefited receiver. Second, a proposed barrier has to meet a noise reduction design goal to provide a 7 decibel decrease for at least 1 impacted receiver. For this project, noise levels would approach, equal, or exceed the level at which the Federal Highway Administration would consider noise abatement. As a result, noise barriers were evaluated at the I-10 US 69 interchange. It was determined that the construction of noise barriers in 4 locations along I-10 and US 69 could provide feasible and reasonable traffic noise abatement for this project. Tonight, we're only discussing Barrier 3 along I-10. This slide shows a preliminary layout of Barrier 3. Barrier 3 will be in one segment. The entire barrier will be approximately 1,450 feet in length and 14 feet tall. It will be located on the I-10 frontage road from 10th Street through 8th Street. This design revision is being recommended due to site distance issues brought forth from the previously shared design, as well as to minimize conflict points and areas between local street traffic and the I-10 eastbound frontage road traffic, as well as the I-10 eastbound on-ramp entrance traffic. So to show you what the proposed noise barriers might look like, here are some examples of noise barriers in Texas. The top 2 photos show noise barriers in San Antonio and Corpus Christi. The bottom 2 photos show noise barriers in Austin. These photos may look a little bit familiar. These 4 photos are of a recently constructed noise barrier located here in Beaumont, Texas, off of US 69, and resembles a noise barrier design that would be installed if agreed upon by the impacted residents today. So noise barriers are intended to provide positive aspects to neighborhoods, but there are some negative impacts that could occur as well. Noise barriers are designed to reduce the traffic noise and are normally well received. However, they can also result in restricted views, feelings of confinement, can affect sunlight, and in some instances, limit access to nearby streets. Noise barriers may also provide a surface for graffiti. Finally, it's important that you know that a noise barrier will not eliminate all noise. There will still be noise, but it would be decreased. So who can vote? So who can vote? To be eligible to vote, you must be the owner or resident of a property that touches the right-of-way line near where a barrier is proposed. Only 1 vote is allowed per property. Some residents that are not directly adjacent to the right-of-way line have been identified by the noise model. Those persons can also vote. Not all votes are counted equally. A weighting system is applied based on owner occupancy. For owner-occupied dwelling units, the property owner's response counts as the one vote. If multiple ballots are received from multiple owners of the same unit, for instance, a husband and wife submit a ballot, they are collectively counted as one vote. For non-owner occupied dwelling units, a response from the resident/renter counts as 10% of the vote, and a response from the property owner counts as 90% of the unit's vote. You may only vote for or against the proposed barrier nearest your property. The decision to construct a particular barrier is based on a simple majority vote. For example, if there are 30 property owners eligible to vote, then a majority is 16 votes. So if 16 or more owners vote in favor of the barrier, then a noise barrier will be built for that location. A majority of the votes against the barrier would mean that a barrier would not be built at that location. It is important to note that the decision will be based on a majority of votes received. Each proposed barrier is considered separately during the voting process. It is very important that we receive your vote. This methodology was used in the summer of 2021 to determine whether to move forward with the construction of the original design of the noise barrier. Due to the recent change in the noise barrier design to enhance safety in this area, TxDOT is reaching out once again via the stakeholders meeting tonight to determine if the modified noise barrier design, along with the Beach Street modifications, are still acceptable to the impacted citizens in the area. Yeah. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to the noise ballots. We got noise ballots back on the back tables back there if you didn't receive one in the mail. They're both in English and Spanish. Please know that the eligible voters are those that own or rent property adjacent to the right-of-way line near the proposed noise barrier, or those that were identified to benefit from the barrier. So that we can count your vote correctly, please provide your full name, address, and telephone number. Please vote for if you're in favor of a noise barrier near your neighborhood, or against if you do not want a noise barrier constructed. There is also a place on the noise ballot to provide comments if you choose to do so. Once again, it's important that we receive your vote. Please mail ballots to the address listed in the slideshow above. So we have Ms. Nancy Perrone there at the Texas Department of Transportation, Beaumont District, 8350 Eastex Freeway, Beaumont, Texas, 77708 zip code. All votes must be postmarked no later than June 2nd, 2023. So you got a couple of weeks. Following Friday, June 2nd, 2023 deadline for ballot submittal, ballots submitted by the benefited residents and owners adjacent to the proposed noise barriers would be tallied. If at least 51% of the ballots tallied show support for the construction of the updated noise barrier design, the revised barrier design would then be incorporated as part of the design package for the Eastex Interchange project. So if you guys know your neighbors and you are for the wall or against the wall, reach out to them and get them to cast their vote. So this concludes tonight's TxDOT Traffic Noise Barrier Workshop presentation. Thank you for your interest in this matter this evening. Once again, I'll put contact information above. Should you have any additional questions or concerns after this workshop, contact information is provided on this final slide. Once again, ballots can be turned in during this meeting or mailed to the point of contact indicated on the bottom of the ballot. And then with that, that concludes the presentation. We now, per our agenda, we'll jump to the question and answer portion. I'll hand it over to Mr. Trevor Reed from Volker to address any questions from the public.
All right. Well, thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate all that detailed information, and wanted to open the floor if anybody had any questions tonight on the information presented or anything related to the project in this area. Yes, ma'am.
And that is where the wall is constructed. And is it gonna be location right at the Hero Court?
Yeah, so
Is it behind,
right.
where is the wall?
So the wall is this red line right here. And part of what we're coming in here today, based on what you saw last time, is that the wall location and the detailed design resulted in having to reconstruct a certain portion of Beach Street. And so Beach Street, as you see here in the yellow, that is the section that would have to be reconstructed. It is all within the TxDOT right-of-way. So the existing right-of-way that's in there, it would fit within there. There's no new right-of-way being acquired in this area. And the red line would be right in there. So the frontage road is up here, the wall, and then Beach Street. This is the frontage road up here, yes. So frontage road, sound wall, then Beach Street. So it would separate from the frontage road. Yeah, it's going to hug basically the north side of existing Beach Street today. That's where the location will be.
Why was it reduced from 18?
And the noise modeling, when they're doing the noise model, there was an opening previously right at, 9th Street, yes, 9th Street. When there's an opening in a wall, the way that noise passes through that opening can actually amplify it in some ways. And so when we connected the whole wall, we rerun the noise analysis again, and it resulted in a shorter wall that was needed to provide the same level of benefit or equal level of benefit. It is similar to that, yes, ma'am. There's some standard patterns that are readily constructible that the state reuses through most of the area. Dave, hate to put you on the spot, but the exact location is at Anderson, I believe, correct, for that wall that was recently built? Right. Yep. Yeah, and there is an anti-graffiti coating aspect to that as well. That doesn't prevent him from getting graffiti, but it's easier to clean off once it is applied. So, we do have some detailed exhibits at the back too, and I'm more than happy to help walk you through that individually by your house location if you've got specific questions on that too after the meeting. Okay. Well, the time frame, the project is set to be ready to let at the end of this year. What that means is that utilities are moved and it's clear for TxDOT to let the project. Right now, it's scheduled for May of 2024, around that time frame. That can shift here or there depending on utilities being reallocated or being moved out of the way and the funding that's available. But right now, that is the schedule for the project. When it would actually be constructed during the project is typically towards the end is when sound walls are installed. It just takes time to get everything else in place and get Beach Street in the right location and the frontage road in there. So the sound walls are usually done around the time that the frontage road and the street is constructed. The general construction of the project has a detailed traffic control plan that's still under development. And then once a contractor is awarded the bid, they have to put together a schedule that provides some timelines of when that would happen. And so depending on how they decide to deliver the project with that traffic control plan, when it gets closer to the time for street-by-street closures during construction, that is something the area office and the contractor work with residents to communicate on a location-by-location basis. This is a long-term project. over several years. So there are pockets that'll be under construction, and that is a part of the same project. So it might not be immediately in your area until it gets there. Any other questions? Yes, sir. A comprehensive list of all the folks that were.
Yeah, that the ones that I saw that I can get, make sure that people know. I'm just thinking about, I wanna get those people to say, hey, we have a vote, people should know it. I wanna go first. I would like to vote for or against it, but I wanna make sure that people, but I don't know who those letters.
Okay. Benjamin, I don't know the answer to that question right off the top of my head, but we can find out if that information is publicly available or not. Carol, do you know? Okay. We can find out and get you a response to that question.
And we do have your name, and I assume Carol has your name and number in case we can provide that information to you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Trevor. So next on the agenda, we have an opportunity to speak for City of Beaumont elected officials. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak? Mr. Ellis said, Mr. Ellis says, I'm good. All righty, if there's no one from the City of Beaumont here that wants to speak tonight, we'll go back to our open session, and you guys can take a look at the exhibits that we have, and I'll leave this up on the screen, and you can have a good night. Thank you.